In the middle of the cold night, when the entire east coast of America was still quiet, dozens of ships cut through the waves and rushed out to sea. Not to find gold, but to fight for something more precious, the survival of the entire town. In this sea, the clock is not measured by hours, but by the pull of the net, the heartbeat of the ship, and the value of each kilo of fresh clams. Under the cold sand offshore, millions of scallops lie still, seemingly quiet, but at the heart of an industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year. When the siren sounds, the entire seaport wakes up. High-intensity lamps shine down on the decks, covered with salt mist, and dozens of sailors prepare for the fiercest battle of the year. Go discover why harvesting. 50 tons of scallops in 24 hours keeps this maritime port alive. Beneath the cold, wet sand of the ocean, where light cannot reach, scallops are silently filtering water. Cleaning the ocean and bringing in more than $600 million worth of value to the U.S. economy each year. Inside the delicate fan shell lies thick, sweet white meat, rich in protein and omega-3s, a culinary treasure known to chefs as the sea's filet mignon. It is the soul of high-end restaurants in New York, Tokyo, and Paris. But scallops can't be farmed like salmon or oysters. They thrive only in perfect conditions: cold water, steady currents, clean seabeds. One small environmental shift and the entire population can take decades to recover. So, the opening day of the season is a sacred event. The port is like a battlefield. Every ship, every sailor knows, only in these few short days will they have the chance to make a living for the whole year. The scallop fishery is one of the most heavily regulated in the United States. Each vessel has its own quota, monitored 24/7 by GPS and NOAA satellites. If they stray just a few miles off the line, they can lose their license and be fined up to $250,000. Timing is everything. If you set sail early, the clams are still young. If you set sail late, the clams will release their eggs, become mushy, and lose value. Captains must monitor water temperature, currents, and even the lunar cycle to choose the golden hour, when sea and man are in harmony. As the signal to start sounded, 30 ships departed simultaneously. The clock began to count down. For the next 24 hours, every second was a step towards glory, or a step towards loss. Night fell, yellow lights swept across the waves. The whole sky was filled with cold steam and the howling wind. No one spoke. Each sailor focused only on his work, straining his ears to hear the sound of the net sweeping across the bottom, sensing intuitively whether the white gold was in his hands. At sea, technology and instinct must work together. Sonar, weather radar, sonar, all help humans cope with the sea. But only experienced captains can read the language of the ocean. The centerpiece of the trip is the dredge, a 500-kilogram steel mesh specially designed to scrape away sand without breaking the shells. It is the result of decades of research to balance productivity and ecological conservation. But being in the right spot is never a matter of luck. It is the result of hundreds of trips out to sea, thousands of hours of observing the currents and the seabed. Captains must become ocean scientists, knowing how to read the color of the water, understand the rhythm of the waves, feel the wind direction, and sometimes, just by a slight change in the salty taste of the sea breeze, they know they are near the sweet spot. Sonar and GPS data only help part of the story. The rest is instinct, the experience forged by generations of fishermen who live and die with the sea. The onboard technology is constantly at work. GPS pinpoints every square meter of coordinates. Bottom scanning sonar provides a 3D image of the sand, rocks, and shellfish beneath. Temperature and salinity gauges send data back to the control room. Some modern vessels even link to NOAA satellites to predict where the benthic densities are higher. But no matter how sophisticated the technology, only humans know when it's time to cast the net. When everything clicked, perfect water temperature, steady currents, flat bottom, and a sonar signal showing dense bright spots, the captain gave the command: lower the net. The hundreds of kilograms of clam net was lowered, the steel cables whistling in the cold wind. Everyone held their breath. From this point on, there was no turning back. The sea would either reward the treasure or swallow the entire ship's efforts. At sea, everything worked like a perfect machine with no room for error. The winches were pulled tight, the ship tilted to the current. The iron nets swept across the bottom. Hitting a reef or a shell that was too thick could tear the net, or worse, the cables could snap, causing a serious accident. The sailors stood waiting, sweat and steam mixing together in the cold ocean air. Each turn took nearly an hour. and when the net was pulled up, the entire ship seemed to hold its breath. As the nets rose to the surface, the clang of metal and the roar of seawater bursting filled the air. The deck was ablaze with searchlights, and thousands of scallops fell to the deck, their shells sparkling like pearls in the salty sand. The crew cheered, but there was no time to waste. They began sorting on the spot, barehanded in the icy water, each one inspected by sight and feel. Not every clam is worth a penny. A small crack or a substandard size can drastically reduce the value of a shipment. Sailors can tell the difference by the hardness of the shell or the distinctive grayish hue it reflects under the lights. The good ones are sorted. The rest are thrown back into the sea, a requirement to preserve the population. Every decision, however small, means survival, not just for humans, but for the ocean. Not every clam that is pulled up is worth anything. On deck, the crew must sort each one by eye and hand. Those that are too small, have cracked shells, or have damaged muscles are immediately discarded. The iron hooks and steel nets continue to cut through the seabed, creating a metallic roar that echoes through the ocean floor. Each time the net is pulled up, the ship tilts, forcing the crew to hold on to the railings to avoid being thrown into the frigid water. Sometimes they pull up not just clams, but rocks, seaweed, and strange creatures never seen before, evidence of the wild power of nature hundreds of feet below. The race gets fiercer as the end approaches. Cables screech, wind whistles across the deck, and all eyes are fixed on the final catch, the chance to hit 50 tons or go home empty-handed. Then, in the moment of utmost tension, when the net was lifted, thousands of ivory white shells fell to the floor, making a crisp sound like the applause of the ocean, signaling that the final victory was theirs. The commercial standards for deep-sea scallops are extremely strict. Each scallop must be at least 4 inches in diameter, with uniform white flesh, no scratches or bruises. Grade A scallops can sell for more than $30 per pound, double the price of regular scallops. Behind that figure lies an obsessive level of meticulousness. If just 1% of the scallops are damaged, the entire batch can be destroyed. Once selected, the clams are immediately transferred to cold seawater tanks kept at 0 to 2 degrees Celsius. A digital sensor system continuously monitors temperature, salinity, and dissolved oxygen. Seafood engineers call this the golden cold chain, the lifeblood of maintaining the freshness of premium seafood. If the temperature exceeds 3 degrees Celsius for more than 15 minutes, the entire shipment is considered worthless. Scallops live sedentary lives at depths of 40 to 100 meters, where the temperature fluctuates between 3 and 6 degrees Celsius. Each scallop filters up to 15 liters of water per hour, contributing to the purity of the entire sea. That is why they are called the biofilter of the ocean. As a result, each clam beach, the sandy area where they congregate, is considered a national asset. Veteran fishermen keep secret maps passed down through generations, recording the exact coordinates of where the clams grow thickest. Once the ship arrives at port, the process doesn't stop. Immediately, each crate of clams is loaded into a refrigerated container labeled with an electronic tracking code. Each code records the journey, coordinates, time of trawl, storage temperature, and even the captain's name. This transparent supply chain makes American seafood the global standard, not just for quality, but for trust. Inside the portside processing plant, the air is chilly at 4 degrees Celsius. Workers, wearing full-body protective gear, pass through an ozone-sterilized chamber before entering the processing area. Each crate of clams is washed with high-pressure water jets and then fed into an automatic shelling machine. The white flesh is cut out and passed through a color scanning and sorting system. Each clam is assessed by a high-speed camera that scans 200 images per second, analyzing color, elasticity, and size. Samples that do not meet standards are immediately rejected before they are exposed to any packaging. The AI system can also detect signs of microscopic damage, dents that are invisible to the naked eye. A random sample is then sent to a microbiology lab where technicians test for heavy metals, toxic algae residue, and E. coli bacteria. This ensures the Scallop of America label, a product that can go straight into the supply chain of 3-star Michelin restaurants. Once qualified, the scallops are packaged according to customer requirements. Some are vacuum sealed and IQF frozen at -40 degrees Celsius. Others are kept alive in sterile seawater for export by air. Each package is labeled with a QR code detailing the date of processing, catch area, and expiry date, proof of the entire journey from sea to table. But behind those cold numbers and traceability codes is a system that operates with precision down to the second. From the cold storage at the port, the sub-zero temperature containers are sealed and loaded onto specialized trucks, which head straight to the airport in less than 4 hours from the time the ship docks. There, technicians continue to check the pressure and coldness of each container, ensuring that the cold chain never breaks. If the temperature rises by more than 2 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes, the shipment is immediately discarded, a strictness that few other industries can match. And it is this meticulousness, from the hands of the seafarers to the logistics engineers, that keeps each piece of clam still intact with the taste of the ocean when it is placed on a dining table halfway around the world. Once off the assembly line, those pearly white scallops travel thousands of miles, from the pristine harbors of New England to the dinner tables of New York, Paris, or Tokyo. Each scallop carries with it not only the sweetness of the sea, but also the breath of the people who have sacrificed sweat and blood to keep the trade alive. In fine dining, scallops are more than just an ingredient. They are a symbol of purity and discipline. Chefs like Gordon Ramsay and Nobu Matsuhisa call it the art of timing, because if you miss the mark by a second, perfection is lost. When hit with a hot cast iron pan, the scallops caramelize on the surface, creating a thin, golden, crispy crust, while the inside remains tender and juicy. Add a little unsalted butter, a few drops of lemon, a pinch of Malden sea salt, and the ocean flavor explodes. Each dish is just a few bites, but can cost upwards of $100. People pay for the purity, the hard work, and the feeling that the dish has traveled a 24-hour journey, from the bottom of the cold sea to the delicate plate. Whether it's Japanese sashimi or French pan-seared, scallops are revered as living pearls. Every chef knows it. They can't be faked, can't be rushed, and can't be replaced. When diners enjoy it, they do not know that the piece of clam melting in their mouth is the crystallization of the entire ocean, the mark of people who live by the sea, people who have learned to understand and respect nature instead of conquering it. In these coastal towns, 50 tons of scallops is more than just a catch. It is the heartbeat of a community, a source of pride, a memory, proof that in a changing world, there are still people willing to brave the waves to preserve the soul of the ocean. If you love the authentic journeys behind every dish, continue to accompany us, where every drop of seawater tells a story.